We're here in our research library at the Mark Twain House and Museum. We are on the third floor of our Webster Bank Museum Center. And this is a place where we have books that Mark Twain wrote, books about him, his contemporaries, about his life during the times that he was here in Hartford. And we have a lot of researchers who come in. We have students, we have Twain scholars, lots of different academics who come in and use our library and our resources. We have about, our collection boasts 16,000 items, so that includes paper documents, books, 3D objects, some of which we see on the table here. So what I'm going to show you today are pieces that we've pulled from our collection that are specific to the Clemens family. They were owned by the Clemens family, owned by the daughters of Mark Twain, or Sam and Livy. And we are going to be organizing an exhibit that will open March 24th, 2016, called In Their Father's Image, Susie, Clara, and Jean Clemens. What that really means is by focusing on the daughters and their lives in the house, we get a different view of Mark Twain rather than the humorist that he was known for, the Missouri boy that he was known for, the steam pilot. He was Papa to them. So what I've pulled for us to look at today are some of the books that was owned by the Clemens family. There's different stories attached with them. We also have some of the baby items from the children, as well as different items belonging to the daughters. Mark Twain's oldest daughter, Susie, she actually started writing a biography of her father when she was 13 years old because she wanted to show people who he was when he was at home. As I said, he was known as this humorist. He was famous for being famous, and she wanted people to know about what he was really like. I thought we would start off with this New Testament, the Bible. This was where it all began with the Clemens family. This was Mark Twain and his wife, S.L. and O.L. This was their Bible, and the date February 2nd, 1870 is the day that they were married. And to us, this is an item that represents the beginning of their family, the beginning of Mark Twain finally finding a woman that he wanted to marry, settle down with, and raise a family. We have a fairly large collection of some of these christening silver baby items of the girls, of the families. This bowl, actually, you can maybe see, this is for Langdon Clemens. Now, Langdon was the firstborn child. He was their first son of Mark and Livy. And unfortunately, he passed away when he was 19 months old of diphtheria. So that is Langdon's. We have a plate of Jean's with her birthday inscribed. And we also have this cup of Clara's. And these were given to all of the children from their grandmother, or grandmama, Langdon. So Livy's mother got these for the children, and they are Tiffany and Company. So the silver gifts for the birth of a baby, it symbolizes the joy in their birth. It's also wishing them a long, happy, healthy life. And the christening silver, it's also a little bit of that symbol of wealth again. As I said, the Langdons were very wealthy, and they were able to give these gifts to the children. While Susie's biography about her father was never published during her lifetime or his lifetime, it has since been published, so it is available to read it. And I have a copy here of Papa, an intimate biography of Mark Twain by Susie Clemens, his daughter, 13. And here we see this great picture of Susie and her father, Mark Twain, putting on a little play together. So they're both dressed up. He is the loving, just the loving, wonderful, kind-hearted father that she looks up to, that she adores, that she only wants the best of. So she's writing about him in ways that at the time really no one else is, because they don't know him as the family man, as the father. She's writing about him in his private life. The next thing that we have is a letter from Mark Twain to his daughter Susie. So what he says in his letter here: "My dear daughter, your grandmother Fairbanks, who was a family friend, joins your mother and me in great love to yourself and your brother Langdon. We are enjoying our stay here to an extent not expressible save in words of syllables beyond your strength. Part of our enjoyment is derived from sleeping tranquilly all night long and never listening to see if you have got the sniffles afresh or the Grand Duke upstairs has wakened and wants a wet rag. And yet no doubt you, both of you, prospered just as well all night long as if you had had your father and mother's usual anxious supervision." So this was a letter written to Susie by her father when she was just a tiny baby. And I think it shows the love that he had for his daughter, how much of a father he really is. He was thinking of her, and I think it's something that parents still do today, whether it's sending a text now or an email, writing expressively to their little children even though they can't read yet. So Susie told Livy what she wanted to say, and Livy wrote it down for her. "My dear grandmama, I am having a beautiful time playing and throwing stones in the water when Mama was at church this morning. There came a big boat along. I didn't know if there was music on it, and so I went and asked Rosa if there was music on it, and she said yes. I heard music somewhere, and I didn't know where it was. Once, while we were at Interlaken, we were up on a boat, Aunt Clara and Mama and I, to see the Geisbach Falls. They're the most wonderfulest falls in Switzerland." And on the back of the letter, we can see where Susie was practicing her capital A's. Susie, as a child, was actually more outspoken as a very tiny child. She was a little bit of a handful, but as she grew up, she actually became more reserved. She was always trying to do the right thing, being more the proper girl. And then she had her younger sister Clara, who was more boisterous and independent. We have a few photographs. They had their own costumes. They took different parts. They got the neighborhood girls involved, and they would put on plays for the Nook Farm family residence inside the house as well. Susie herself, as we've been mentioning, was a voracious writer. She wrote several plays. We do have some photographs of the girls performing her play, A Love Chase, in the drawing room of the Hartford home. Unfortunately, Susie's life was cut short at the age of 24. She passed away in the house of spinal meningitis. And so it can be hard to speculate, maybe what she would have become had she had more of that full life. Clara, however, Clara was the middle daughter. And as we said before, she had great musical talents. She went and studied at Berlin and Vienna, studied singing, and she came back to the U.S. and she performed concerts. And here we've got a program for one of her first concerts in the United States. This was at Unity Hall here in Hartford on February 4th, 1901. I also have this advertisement here for Clara with a wonderful image of her. She's in her late 20s. And this is a program for Joan of Arc. This was an adaptation of Mark Twain's Joan of Arc that Clara starred in as Joan. And she traveled the country performing this play. This is from 1926. So this was after her father passed away. She was continuing his legacy. And Clara, as the only daughter to survive to adulthood, she really became the guardian, the protector of her father's legacy. And here we have a copy of the love letters of Mark Twain. And this was actually Clara's copy. And something interesting about this book is inside there are a few notations made by Clara that really tells us more of kind of how she felt about her father and how he was being portrayed at the time. So on this page, you can see these markings were made by Clara. So the first one, Clemens called on and had met the original. So she was a stickler for grammar. She wanted on to be inserted there. But when her father's being described, they describe him as a steamboat pilot, now rising in the world by his quick wit and slow drawl. And she writes the word no, because towards the end of his life, he really didn't have too much of a drawl anymore. And then he's described as having piercing blue-green eyes, and she circles blue because she knew her father's eye color, and it was blue, not blue-green. The tools that I have over here actually belong to Jean Clemens. She was the youngest daughter, and she was a wood carver. This was one of her hobbies. She was diagnosed with epilepsy when she was 15 years old, and that meant that she actually had a lot of restrictions in life. She didn't go out with friends as much. She wasn't allowed to have romantic relationships because they might trigger her seizures. And so she had a very bland diet. For a while, she was sent to several different sanitariums. They went to Europe and traveled all around trying to seek a cure for her. But she couldn't be quite as independent like Clara was, studying her music and honing her craft. So Jean actually found kind of an escape in wood carving. And at first her father wasn't too keen on it, but he kind of came around when he realized that it was a little bit like therapy for her, because she could do something. Because of her epilepsy, because of the restrictions placed on her, she never really felt like she had a place or had a purpose. And this helped her have a little bit more of a purpose with her carvings. So these are her tools. As I said, Clara was really the only one she lived the longest life of the three girls. Jean actually died from complications of her epilepsy when she was 29 years old. She loved to take a nice cold bath in the morning. And Christmas Eve, 1909, she had finished with wrapping up all of the gifts and decorating the house, and she went to bed, woke up early in the morning, and went to take her bath, and she was found in her bathtub. She had died from what we believe to be a heart attack brought on by her seizure. And it was, of course, heartbreaking for Mark Twain. At this point, he had lost his oldest son, his oldest daughter, and his wife, Livy, had passed away a few years before. And so he actually passed away about 4 months later, that April. Some might argue that he passed away from a broken heart, but he did die from what he called, I believe he called a cigar heart. As you know, he smoked quite often, cigars and his pipes, and that's really what he ended up dying from. So the items that we've been looking at today, they reflect Mark Twain's family, the daughters that he raised and who they became over the years, what happened to them. But we also see who Mark Twain was to them, the private Mark Twain, Papa.